Cliff Jumper. Commence countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off!
You've just jumped inside the pull bag. Join TFG1 Mike and the rest of the comic reading crew here at the GCRN as they make their great escape into comics. From DC, Marvel, IDW, Boom Studios, Zenoscope, and more, we have everything you want to read right here. Transformers comics? Yeah, we cover that. He-Man? Yeah, sure. DC superheroes like Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Batman Beyond? Yep, we have those too. How about TMNT from IDW and I Hate Fairyland from Image Comics? Yeah, we have all that here. Plus, so much more. It's all inside the pull bag here on the Geekcast Radio Network. So without any further ado, it's time to talk about the comics we are reading right now here inside the pull bag.
Hello and welcome to the Pull Bag. This is episode 347. This is the IDW Transformers Spotlights Part 2. I am, of course, TFG Mike.
2.
Yes. Volume 2, but this is Part 2 of 6. Between this Autobotly April and this coming Autobotly August, we're going to get through all the spotlights. They should do more of them, but they probably won't. This is take 2 of this, because I'm brain dead and I didn't record the last thing we did. Yay.
That happened.
This one features Soundwave, Cup, Galvatron, Optimus Prime, and Ramjet? Question mark. You'll be hearing LadyWreck and Ha-Hee Prime on Cup and Optimus Prime. Ryan and I are here to talk about Soundwave, Galvatron, and Ramjet. How are you, sir?
Half dead. So returned from New Zealand with an illness. Definitely didn't do me any good. The plane flight, that is, which is exceedingly long.
Yeah.
But well. Could have been worse.
Yeah, could have been worse. Something could have happened to the plane.
Got to see Avengers like 4 days early, which was good and bad. Meant I couldn't talk to anybody about it, but didn't have to worry about spoilers.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. It just, I don't know. Like, there are those, and this is a completely different discussion for a different podcast or whatever, but there are those people who say, oh, I don't mind spoilers, and then there are those people that say, oh, don't spoil me, don't say anything about it. Like, I'm sorry, if I go to a movie and I come back and I say, hey, I really enjoyed that, that is not a spoiler. Some people I know feel that that's a spoiler of whether the movie's good or not.
No, but then you got LaShawn McCoy, Bill's running back, douchebag extraordinaire, who tweeted out the ending, so.
Yeah. Then there's douchebags like that. But we are here to talk about more Transformers stuff from IDW, and we start with everyone's favorite cassette player, Soundwave.
Luckily, they've drafted replacements, so we'll see if he's on the roster next year. Oh, right, Soundwave, anyway. I guess start a Bill's podcast. Anyway.
Ooh. Technical difficulties. Let's move on, shall we?
Soundwave superior, Constructicons inferior. Who are you calling inferior? Nobody would follow an uncharismatic bore like you.
Hey, nobody calls Soundwave uncharismatic. Yeah, let's kick tailgate.
So yeah, Soundwave. My summary of it is as follows. So as we mentioned in Spotlight Shockwave, this ends up being a follow-up to Spotlight Shockwave. It also ends up being one of the more intertwined spotlights we'll be talking about with the IDW Universe version 1.0 kind of early times.
Mm-hmm.
But long story short, we saw at the end of Shockwave, Bludgeon was sent to go find out what happened to Shockwave. In this, we discover Soundwave is then sent to go find out where Bludgeon goes and keep an eye on him.
Mm-hmm.
And Bludgeon, it turns out, is not super interested in finding out what happened to old Shocky. He instead uses the Ore-13, which Shockwave implanted into Earth, to try to resurrect Thunderwing to just sort of go mess stuff up and smash everything and everyone.
Pretty much, yeah.
Thunderwing was last seen at this point, I believe, in Stormbringer. Long story short, Thunderwing... So Cybertron, this is back in the IDW when Cybertron was uninhabitable. But Thunderwing discovered a way for them to survive, which was essentially the Pretender process. So he tried it on himself, made himself go cuckoo, and just started like smashing everything and everyone. And he got stopped in the past. He gets resurrected in Stormbringer, and he is stopped in it. I believe this takes place before Stormbringer, actually, so this is why he comes back. And he gets stopped by an exceedingly long speech from Optimus Prime, which, to be fair, would put anybody to sleep. Yeah, oof. You talk about IDW stuff that just kind of peters out. Yeah. I liked Stormbringer, but a lot of the IDW early stuff does not hold up all that well.
No.
Essentially, Thunderwing just runs out of energy. So you get all this build-up for multiple issues. The entertaining stuff is the backstory, because the present-day stuff, again, essentially has a not very good ending, where Thunderwing just kind of goes sleepy time. Yep. Anyway.
So
that is all off-topic to Soundwave, who...
Yes.
I like this. So, get it out of the way first. The art and all of the ones we're talking about in this podcast is fantastic again.
It is. The creative on all of this for writing is Simon Furman, Nick Roche, and Stuart Moore.
Yeah, more on Moore later, but...
Yes, exactly. Art on Soundwave was Marcelo Matier.
Yep.
On Cup, which
it was
we'll
Guido on
Galvatron.
Galvatron.
Guido on Galvatron. Don Figueroa on Optimus Prime, and Robbie Musso on Ramjet. The Soundwave art is so impressive. Like, I know how ridiculous it seems that, a communications officer would be a cassette deck, but the Transformers started in the 80s, folks. So,
and we're based off of a random robot line that all it was meant to be was just everyday objects as transforming robots with no...
Yeah.
They had no idea they were going to do factions and have a war and have comic series and have a franchise that would last 30 plus years.
Yeah, exactly. 35 years this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the funniest bit that I have in here for me is when Bludgeon's two pretender human dudes, when he hands them the charges, they look like basically two Tylenol in Bludgeon's hands, yet when he gives them to the humans, they look like actual explosives.
Yeah.
I
Bit
love
of a size difference.
Yeah, very much. I love the way Soundwave narrates this. I love seeing and hearing from his point of view. The art on his transformations is amazing.
Yeah.
Just all of it is so friggin' good.
And one of the things I like of Soundwave's characterization is it references a lot of the tech specs in that he's kind of a douchebag in terms of... So the first thing he tries to do with Bludgeon is blackmail him. Mm-hmm. And previously, especially in the G1 cartoon, Soundwave is just super loyal to Megatron. Mm-hmm. But in a lot of the tech specs and the write-ups and that kind of thing, it was always mentioned that he was kind of for himself.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know, kind of like that they reference the tech specs and Makes it a little more interesting. I don't know.
It's a sad thing that happens to Soundwave, though, in this. Obviously, he'll go on to kind of be the Decepticon resistance leader, or whatever you want to call him, on the station for everybody in space, and no matter faction, whatever, you can, as long as you want to be a safe Cybertronian, you can come and be on the station. He eventually goes on to run that, but in this, he ends up getting basically stuck in his tape deck mode.
Yep.
Kind of sad.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's pretty bad. It's one of those things that this is not the best alt mode to have, especially if you end up stuck in it.
Mm-hmm. I love that they only focus on 2 of his many cassettes. They focus on Laserbeak and Ravage, because those are the 2 that are, I don't want to say more sly than Rumble and Frenzy, but you don't have to focus on which one is purple, which one is red. You don't have to focus on, pile driving and all that stuff.
They might be the best known, too.
Yes.
Just thinking about it, that, I don't know, they're 2 of the more popular ones. They're 2 of the first ones we ever saw as well in G1.
Yeah, Laserbeak was the very first. Laserbeak and Buzzsaw were both the first ones, and I think right after that came Ravage and Rumble and Frenzy. And all
Ravage
that.
getting trapped in his little cage.
Yep. Oh man, that episode.
Yeah, it's interesting too, to be fair, that many years later we got a lot of focus, especially on Ravage, in terms of a personality and that sort of thing, and More Than Meets the Eye, where he could speak, and they do an awful lot of... He's got an arc with Megatron's redemption / attempt at whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
He doesn't really get redeemed. Anyway, that's a long story. But yeah, anyway, much later on in the series, it's cool that he's given a lot more to do. But this was his first appearance.
Yeah, very, very cool. Soundwave, I would probably give a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. I don't know what it keeps it from being a 5, but...
That's what I said the first time we recorded. You're cheating. You're stealing my bits now. Yeah, I said the same thing. It was a 4.5 out of 5. I definitely enjoy it. It is... Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'll get to that when we hit Ramjet anyway. But yeah, it's another example of why I wish they continued with the spotlights.
Yeah. Yeah, the last thing I'll say about it, and I'll probably say this throughout the podcast, folks. I love how they do the opening narrative for the characters. I love that little character bio thing, I guess you could call it, that they do in the very first page for these guys. So yeah, Soundwave, if you haven't read it before, folks, go check it out. It's a neat little story. Yes, it does, it's kind of not necessarily the middle, but it's, bookended around other things that are happening. But I believe I could give this to anybody and just say, hey, read a cool story about Soundwave, without them really needing to know everything.
Yeah, it ties in really heavily with it, but it's not necessary reading all of the other stuff to, at the very least, if you're a fan of the character, you will get enough of the character that, the rest of the stuff doesn't really matter.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break, head on over to talk with the ladies as we talk about Cup and him being on, the nursing home planet or wherever he is. And we'll be back after this.
Didn't even bend a fender.
Yeah, but look, there are a lot more of those can-digging, grill-cracking things.
All right, up next is the old-timer. It's Cup. Oh, God. How can Nick Roche write something so incredible as Last Stand and the other parts of the Wreckers saga, which parts of that were depressing, but this is just really depressing. It was like...
Did you read Last Stand? Did you read anything?
Yes, I read it, but I'm sorry if you...
Too.
It was, but it wasn't as depressing as this. I mean, this is basically Cup in a retirement home.
I don't know, man. Wreckers is pretty depressing.
It is, but I'm sorry. Until Nick cuts a bot in half lengthways, James has the award for not worst writer.
The gauntlet and telling him you're not dark enough.
Exactly.
Don't do it. It's dangerous. The nuclear option.
That's like, he'll put his finger on the nuclear button. That's right. He's got something to prove. Mm-hmm. Come on, man.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I said last week that I like how they do the opening narrative of who the character is. Uh-huh. And most of the ones that are done in Volume 1, Hot Rod, Nightbeat, all that stuff, they're like written in first person. This is written in like third person. And then then in the issue you have Cup talking in the giving you the first person. I don't like that. Like, I wish that the opening narrative piece here where it says he's seen it all, done it all, he's a treasure trove of knowledge, that whole thing. It's like, I wish that was him talking to us as it's him talking to us throughout the rest of the story. I don't know. It's just a little thing I noticed.
It gives you the way other people perceive him and why they're going and sending so many people after him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's not tooting his own horn and be like, I'm awesome and I know everything.
Well, that's Optimus that does that.
Actually, he does. Because I'm just flipping through the first couple pages here. He does do first person.
Yeah.
When he shows up on the song. Mm-hmm. So you saying that it was third person or first person?
What I'm saying is
the intro, Amy. The very intro.
The intro where
I didn't have the intro because I had
he's seen it all, done it all. He's a treasure trove of knowledge and experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't know where you were seeing that from because in mine I read it literally out of the collection book, which did not have that in there.
Really? That's funny.
Yeah. Well, because so it's the IDW collection volume. I had it in volume 2. I did not get it in trade. I didn't hop in the scene and find this. And I think I might have it. I don't know, but I actually read this right out of the collection, so it doesn't have that in there.
Well, it sucks that it doesn't have that in there because that's one of the so far since I've been going back and reading the spotlights. That's one of my favorite things about the spotlights is that they give you, for those of the people out there that may have never read these, like me, because I've read some of them, but I wasn't following along as they were happening.
Gotcha.
So I like that they do that, at least in the actual trade paperback. So yeah, gotcha. I mean, boiled down, it's Cup on Old Timers Planet is really what it is.
It's on Drug World.
Yeah, exactly.
Drug World. Oh gosh, yeah. Actually, I think this is supposed to be one of the planets that, not to spoil it, because if anybody's never read this before, they'll be like, I think this has ended up being one of the planets that Shockwave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he seeded it with an ore.
Seeded it with an ore, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I bet you $1 million that was John coming up with an explanation afterwards, though.
Maybe. It was probably that. Well, Nick was supposedly kind of wrote it in a way that it could actually fit in anywhere. He tried to kind of make it so that it would fit. Which is understandable when you didn't know where it was going to go and what was going to happen to it after this. And, it went somewhere, that's definitely sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was not expecting to, this entire story, I felt lost.
Oh, okay.
Because this was one of the spotlights that I had never read.
Gotcha.
So, going back and reading this, and whatever point in time that this takes place, I have no clue. I got the story. I understood the story of what this issue is saying, but at the same time, I felt like I need more explanation here.
Gotcha. Yeah, I read this. I can't remember. I think I read the Asian series, I think, first, and then I started, because I didn't jump in until around, I think, All Hail Megatron was winding down, and that's when I got a hold of stuff and started like reading it and digging in. So I had a lot of stuff to look at, and I think I read All Hail Megatron first, and then I started reading the spotlights, just little bits and stuff like that. I think this was a standout one for me, just because it was just so gritty, and I did not expect that in my Transformers. I don't know why. Maybe I just didn't expect that, and so it kind of was a little bit of a standout one to me, because the conflict was just so incredible, whereas some of them kind of like, it's all right, that's all right, that's cool, and then this one hit and I was like, oh my gosh. Holy crap, man.
Yeah, this story, I don't know how we're going to summarize this, because we're not going through every single page here, but this story was wacky. And Heather's right. This might as well be Drug World, because it was like Cup has been on LSD this whole time.
It's pretty much rotted his brain. Who knows? I think he's been there for longer than he should. He should be dead. People are trying. Well, do you want me to just kind of summarize? So he should be dead. He crash landed on a world, and he's not incredibly sure like how long he's been there, because all he cares about now is the crystals, and they sing to him, and at night the song stops, and then all of these crazy things come after him, and we learn throughout the story that he's actually trying to be rescued, and Springer is in charge of this op, and he's trying to get him off the planet, and every single time they go down there to get him, he basically is, all the voices and the creatures that are coming after him are actually Autobots that are trying to save him.
Oh, wow.
Oh, did you not? Okay.
I was like, wait a second. No, because when I read this, I'm like, okay, so he's either envisioning Springer in some sort of dreamscape, or Springer's really there, and then it's kind of like when, if I look at Springer and see a monster, but Springer's looking at me and seeing who I am, and it's the whole hallucination, mistaken identity kind of thing. Okay, yeah, I got it now.
Yeah. That's kind of an important bit, because it makes sense in Last Stand of the Wreckers, because Guzzle is not very happy about all of the people that got sent to try and rescue Cup, because a lot of them died.
Yeah, there's a lot of death in this story.
Yeah, I mean, it's not completely obvious, because all of the people that he's, all of the monsters that he's basically taking. So when he crashed there, he also crashed with another guy named Outback. Poor Outback, yes. Who's literally, there was an accident and he got exploded, and he's half the bot he used to be. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Cup is using his arm as a weapon.
Yeah, I noticed that. And I'm like, oh, damn.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what's not obvious, I guess, because when he's throwing the arm around and knocking heads off, you don't really catch, because they don't look like Autobots. He's so hallucinating over all of this that he just doesn't. He just doesn't see them as anything other than Autobots, which is very interesting, because when they finally actually rescue him, the last bot, who is Trailbreaker, that gets him, he looks like he actually starts to say his name, Trailbreaker, like, oh, I can't, why are you here? And then so the other problem that they're dealing with is that he's been not recharging. He's literally nonstop awake for who knows how long it's been. And
it's Meth Planet.
Yeah, Meth Planet. So, his spark is getting to the point where it's going to like destabilize and explode, and that's bad, because these crystals are highly destructive. They're like highly flammable, whatever. That's what happened to Outback. They were trying to get off there, and they set it off, and so it exploded. And so what they're trying to stop him so every single time he starts to overload, the creatures that are after back off, and he doesn't catch that. But the reason why they're doing that is because they don't want to die, because it's going to, if he goes, they could all die. They could all explode. So that's the real conflict here, is what's going on. And then of course, when it doesn't work out, every morning they have to leave because the crystals become more intense, and so they're trying to get him at night when he's supposed to shut down, and he doesn't.
And part of the reason why they don't look like themselves is that they all have to wear suits.
Yeah, because of the crystals, the energy will also like get in, addle their brain like Cups has. So they're like, we don't want to have that happen. You'd think that he would just be, it's an impossible situation, that they would just let him go, but downside is that Springer is highly motivated to save him. And I think going back and reading this after reading Last Stand and then Sins and now Requiem, every single time they've like just a little bit more has come out. He gleaned a little bit more of the story out of that, and I see it in a completely different light than I did the first time I read it because of that. I don't catch on a lot of the reasons why Springer wants to save him, other than he's just, stubbornness. But now I see it differently, just because, of what we know about the character now because of that. So I can see his reasoning, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, is the body count worth it?
Yeah.
So.
And I, of course, was like, Springer, why didn't you send Trailbreaker in the first time?
I know, and he says that at the almost near the end of the issue. He says, "I should have waited. I should have been more patient." It's like, yes, you should have. Guzzle should be coming after Springer, not Cup. Springer.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. So yeah, they save him, and he almost dies. He quite literally is comatose at the very end.
Yep.
And that opens Cup for other situations that happen to him after this.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I'm like, I know Cup is in the books, but like going forward, but I don't remember anything that happened to him after this. So it's so sad.
He makes an appearance in All Hail Megatron.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, and then I think he also, of course, is in the after of All Hail Megatron. He's definitely in issue 15. I think he was in Drift, not the Drift miniseries, but the Drift
Spotlight.
I want to say, because Perceptor was there. Maybe I'm thinking wrong.
I can't remember.
I need to go back and read that again.
I know he was in Infestation, the little side story. That was like his best story. That wasn't this one, in my opinion. I'm like, I enjoyed the heck out of that.
But like, he is a little scant for a little while, and I think the reason why is probably because of what Nick wrote with this.
Yeah, because he'd set up this whole relation or being manipulated and used by Prowl thing, and then none of the writers knew what to do with it, and they were kind of saving it for Nick, and then Nick never really got to follow through with it.
Well, he did. He was in the Last Stand of the Wreckers. He was in all of the Wreckers, all the Wreckers series, and we learned more that way.
Aside from that,
I think everybody just kind of, again, like I said, he was in All Hail Megatron, but he made more of a cameo kind of thing at the end of All Hail Megatron, so you could see that he was actually there, maybe not doing everything there. Let's see what else. All Hail Megatron 15 as well, and then I don't remember if we ever saw. I don't think Costa ever wrote anything with Cup, to be honest, except the Infestation. But that was Nick with the after Costa, or that was a side thing. It wasn't the main ongoing. So, yeah, I think he just kind of stood in the outskirts for a while. He wasn't a part of the main group, but he did have like story when the Wreckers came on. He was always there. So,
yeah, he just shows up leading the Wreckers and being like, "What's up? I'm awesome, and have a cigar."
Yeah.
I love that they did an alternate cover for this that has basically him fighting the things with Outback's arm. That's hilarious.
Yeah. That's Nick's That's Nick's cover, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the most like pure horror stories that they've
really
ever done.
Yeah, it very much is. It's. I don't want to say it's when Freddy met Jason, but it's like Freddy and Jason and Pinhead all rolled into one.
I think he was going for a I Am Legend kind of vibe. For that.
Yeah.
I saw the wiki page before,
Yeah.
so I was like, there's a couple little tidbits in there. So it's definitely one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, when you kept saying in the Facebook chat before we started recording this part of the podcast, you're like, Outback is coming. We're gonna have Outback as I'm like, did you really message Dan Gilvezan and no, don't do that. I know you didn't, but
he's a good bot. He always lends a hand.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There were parts of humor in this. It just they were
very dark.
Dark.
Yeah.
And they were just kind of little underhanded little things that you didn't catch if you weren't really paying attention.
Oh, and like things where people are like, "We're coming for you, Cup. We're not going to leave." And you know, for him, it sounds horrifying, and they're just like trying to be all kind and whatnot,
and
encouraging.
Yeah.
I do sort of hate going from, if I went to check, and if I understand correctly, Bertram did the colors that are good, and other people did the colors that are bad. You go from this like really, really cool Nightmarescape to like garbage colors, and then sorry, person who did the other colors, and then back to, you know, good Bertram Nightmarescape. And then oh well.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it was a fun little story. It was interesting. Like I said, at first it felt like Cup in a nursing home type of scenario, but obviously,
what kind of nursing homes do you have in your town?
Yeah.
Well, not here in Illinois, but in Kentucky. One of them killed my mom, so there's that. That's a long story, so yeah. Nursing homes, no.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I don't know. We have been rating these things. I don't know what I would rate Cup though, because it was just so out there for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. 0 to 5, I'd probably give it a 3.5, and that's not bad.
No, that's not bad at all, yeah.
Like I said, I enjoyed the story, and obviously once I understood the story, I enjoyed it more. But, you know, I like Nick's art. I've always liked Nick's art from the stuff that I've read from him. I think one of the reasons why I was confused during some of the daytime scenes is because I was not expecting the super bright colors and the super color contrast. Like, Cup ends up turning pink at one point. And I'm like, what the... Is this the same issue? What's going on here? This is not the... It is the same art, but it didn't feel like the same art because it was so dark at first. And then, hey, let's put a flashlight on it.
Yeah. When the sun came up, it was like literally... It's like a desert scape with nothing but crystals around. Yep. And they're like... You know... It goes from extremes. It goes from dark to bright. So... Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. 0 to 5, what would you give it, Aimee?
I'd absolutely give this a 4.
Okay. What about you, Heather?
Same, 4, because it's really experiential. You like, if you're in it, you're in it. Mm-hmm. But it's got rough spots. So it definitely works so much better coming back to it now. Because when it first came out, like you, I was kind of like, wait, what? But now I'm like, oh, yeah, I know what's going on.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to kick it back to Ryan and myself as we talk about Galvatron, and then Heather and I will be back after that to talk about the worst leader in Transformers history.
Slag!
Aimee, where can the people find you online?
You can find me at on Twitter, LadyWreck. That's me.
There you go. We'll be back after this, folks.
Reminds me of the Night of Slave Mind on Galganeth 7.
Soundwave! Jam that transmission! Rumble Frenzy, Ravage Ratbat, Eject, Operation Interference.
No, there will be no Operation Interference. I am TFG1 Mike, and you should be listening to my very first podcast, the TFG1 Podcast. 24 episodes covering the entire U.S. run of the 1984 Transformers cartoon. I also have a few supplemental episodes and an interview with Stan Bush. I bring in guest hosts who will be full-time co-hosts in Steve Megatron and fan of the show now co-host Pecan Court Michael. So check out the TFG1 Podcast. You can find it on iTunes and the web at www.geekcastradio.com. Transform and roll out.
Unicron, my master. With this, I shall make you my slave.
Alright, folks, it is time to talk about not Megatron. It's Galvatron.
Chup was my favorite of my spotlights. Or of the spotlights, not my spotlights. Wow. Anyway. Yeah, so Galvatron, he can't die. He does stuff for other people, but has some autonomy. And that is about it here. He comes across Hound's division, who are guarding over the Sleepy Time corpse of Thunderwing.
Mm-hmm.
Previously put to sleep by one of Optimus Prime's speeches. And, yeah, he is a bad guy. He is not Megatron in this.
No, he is his own character.
Which I personally appreciate. So, we had the discussion previously that my issue has always been, aside from Astro Train mentioning it, there was never anything that showed him to be any type of version of Megatron or anything. He's just kind of...
Right.
And I always disliked him as a leader because he's terrible. I mean, all he does is beat the crap out of his own guys, occasionally killing them. He has no charisma or anything else. I don't know. It always bugged me in G1. I always wondered, why didn't somebody just shoot him in the back? He's terrible.
Well, Starscream, if he wasn't wearing that silly crown, would have probably shot him in the back, but, Galvatron disintegrated him. Anyway.
Yeah, and don't get me started on Cyclonus. Never a big fan.
Really?
It's kind of never in G1. Just a kind of mindless follower that has no interest in, he was the only one that had any type of intelligence, but he always let Galvatron be the leader and mess everything up. I mean, how bad a leader do you have to be that Megatron's plans of every week building a solar needle or stealing something the humans made for energy seem like great plans compared to what you can bring to the table there, Galvi? I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. Within this, I love Galvatron's narration. He references someone that he's being a herald for, and I know it's not, but the first thing I thought of was, Unicron, they're planting the seed extremely early, even though they're not.
Ooh, Mike Costa run. Oh, no.
Yeah. No. I love the art. I think Galvatron looks amazing. I love all of his alt modes. I feel extremely sorry for Sideswipe in this. Sideswipe gets a raw deal, and then even poor Leadfoot gets an even rawer deal. Of course,
Yeah, standard Furman rules. Anyone Generation 2 or anyone who's never appeared before and is a new character is going to die.
Mm-hmm. They're not hollow avatars. The pretender humans. Some of them are alright. There's one that's just completely stupid, though. But this is about Galvatron, and this is basically about Galvatron destroying this area, as you said, basically just freeing Thunderwing or whatever he's doing here. And I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was super cool that you have a spotlight on him where, as we've already said, he's not Megatron.
It established him well in universe. It's not completely required reading. I mean, when I summed it up, that was pretty much it. everyone from this issue who survived appears later on, but it's not super imperative, what is going on with each of them. It gets summed up pretty quickly, but yes, and one of the things I liked was Sideswipe gets a little bit something to do. It's mostly that he wants to find Sunstreaker, who at this point's been kidnapped by Scorponok, along with Hunter on Earth. And Sideswipe's mad because nobody seems to be doing anything about it. And I don't know, I always liked Sideswipe, but, again, we talked about this the first time around, that he never got a lot to do. And we talked about this during his funeral, way back when we reviewed Optimus Prime. I think it was Volume 2, the trade, something like that. But anyway, that he was always just kind of there. He's the dude that had jetpack, and if you were lucky and a big fan, he got 1 or 2 lines per episode, but he never got into his head or anything. And here, he's a bit of a hot rod character. Mm-hmm. That he's impetuous and jump first, think later.
Yeah. He very much is. I do love seeing Hound in this. I think that was really cool, making Hound the leader of the Autobot force here. Now, they're just on a planet, right? They're not in the dead universe.
No.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. I wanted to make sure. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed reading this. I enjoyed Galvatron as his own character. I would love to read a story which this was never explained or explored, as you already said. Astro Train made a joke about it, but I would love to have a story where Megatron and Galvatron basically split personality.
Oh, okay.
I
thought you were going to say meat, and I was going to say, well, it's happened in the Generation 1 comics a few times.
No.
Usually due to time travel shenanigans.
Yeah. No. Split personality. Basically, combine split personality with Optimus Primal's 4 optimal modes. So you have Megatron and his 2 alt modes, his robot mode and his alt mode. Galvatron, it would be some switcheroo type thing, but basically, yeah. But yeah, absolutely dug it. Once again, 4 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I give it a 4 out of 5 as well. I prefer the later kind of depictions of Galvatron, as in, I liked the extremely aged warrior make Cybertron great again version, even though I hated him. He bears resemblance to somebody, but anyway, I like that version of the character, so I mean, I kind of prefer that, but as an initial exposure to the character in the IDW verse.
What happened back there? Mighty Galvatron, what is that? It's Starscream! Blast him! But he's a ghost! Die, you worthless! Since when do ghosts tumble out of control through space?
What were you saying about Galvatron? He's the Mega Trumpatron to everybody's Optimus, I guess.
No. Anyway.
Alright, we're going to take another break. You're going to come back and hear me and the ladies talk about Optimus Prime, the worst leader ever, and then we'll talk about Ramjet. We'll be back after this.
I thought you were made of sterner stuff.
You hush.
Yes, you hush. This is one of the better issues. Come on, man.
A empty exosuit is a better leader than Optimus Prime. We are back here inside the pullback. Episode 34.
I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to drive to your house. I'm going to run you over.
You're going to die by truck.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And as you can tell, Aimee is still here. Yay! She hasn't, snapped her fingers and disappeared on us. So we are here now to talk about...
survived.
For now. I've heard nothing but tears coming from theaters around the world at this point, or at least here in the U.S. For those of you that don't know, we're talking about Avengers Endgame, which as of this recording is out, but by the time you people hear this, it wouldn't have been out because this episode is like 3 weeks late. It's nobody's fault. I'm just saying it's a time thing. So yes, he is the ultimate idiot, the figurehead of the...
No. I will read it.
Take it away, Heather.
So funny. All right. Because, like, this is so... I'm realizing that this issue is how I perceive Prime. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
He is the ultimate authority, the figurehead of an entire race. He stands for integrity, virtue, and honor. His title representing a single-minded commitment to safeguard life and liberty throughout the universe. He stands apart, aloof, an island, encapsulating an ideal and an archetype. He understands he must be more than his fellow Cybertronians, inviolate and incorruptible. But scratch the surface, and Prime is just a mortal being, steel and sinew, as were those who came before.
Optimus Prime.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
The moron that just goes back to playing basketball after the Decepticons attack.
It's like, gotta have fun, glitch face.
Written by Simon Furman, art by Don Figueroa. I believe this is my first time seeing Don's art like I've seen it before. I've seen pages of it, but actually reading a comic that he's done, so that was interesting.
What did you think of it?
I liked it. It shows us that, yes, even though I joke with Heather about how horrible a leader Optimus is, I think it does show what a good leader, how much of a good leader he is, and it shows his inner thoughts on, like, I nearly died. It's just one of those things that happen.
This Tuesday.
That's true. How many times has Optimus Prime died?
Exactly.
Have you accepted Optimus Prime as your Lord and Savior?
No, I have not. Thankfully, I'm not. What's her name? Hoy. No, I thought it was good. I thought it was interesting. I'm getting used to Simon's writing now because, as I said last episode, when we did part 1 of this Transformers Spotlight thing, I had never really read Simon stuff before, so I enjoy it. I think it's interesting and fun, and this, for me, is almost like a history lesson, just, with Optimus Prime driving the whole thing. And, of course, hey, Omega, yay!
Yeah.
Omega is so underappreciated.
Here.
Yes, he is.
But I felt like this gave him the appropriate weight.
Yeah. But then after this, poor Omega.
Yeah, after this he gets shafted, kind of literally.
But this in a corner, in a cave. Poor guy.
This, though, when this issue landed, it landed heavily, like really heavily. Because this was the first time we got, A, all this history, and B, this was the first time we got a previous Prime who was evil. And so...
Isn't this the first when they first started hinting that?
Yeah. And it's also the only time when Prime himself is the audience surrogate. So we are reading this and experiencing it with him. We're experiencing this revelation of, oh, Nova Prime was a scumbag. And just that we experienced that letdown with him and through him. And so it's about the only time in IDW when Prime gets to be an actual person. And yes, he's still written with Simon Furman's verbiage.
Yeah.
But he feels real. And so this is, along with the fact that, the art is so good.
Yeah, Don's art's amazing.
I agree.
It's like, it's peak Don Figueroa, a really good Josh Bertram, and a pretty powerful story. Once Monstructor shows up, I kind of stopped caring, but like, it's fine. But it's got this, well, just the story is Prime has kind of a weird vision when he gets basically his spark crushed by Megatron and he almost dies. And he's like, I saw Nova Prime and he felt evil. I gotta go talk to the one person who might be able to help me, because he doesn't have anybody he can ask questions of.
Yeah, so and he also says that. He says it's like, he's like, there's only one person, that I can really... here's this. I stand alone an island in times of personal crisis. There is no one to counsel me, no one in whom I can confide, save one.
Yep.
And that's where he goes. And so that was really kind of a good build, too, because I thought, well, who could that possibly be? And I was like, it makes complete sense that it would be Omega Supreme. So
yeah, it's
the one that doesn't talk very well.
I know.
He talks different than everybody else, and yeah.
But I mean, Omega always talked different than everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it was comics or cartoons or and I'm not saying this to be negative. I'm just saying he was always like that, and there was, at least to my knowledge, and I haven't, other than IDW's first run of Transformers, starting with Death of Optimus Prime, I haven't read much of the Marvel US or UK run or any of that. I have not read any of the Dreamwave stuff, so I'm basically basing my Omega stuff on G1, where yes, he did talk the way he talks now, but there was one point in there where he told the story of the Crystal City and the Constructicons as a regular robot being, normal talker bot thing.
Yeah.
And this feels like that version of Omega Supreme, which I enjoyed. I liked that episode.
Yeah, this is very, very G1 styling with Don on the art and with Simon on the writing as well. I mean, this is like the Cup story that we did a little while ago does not feel like a G1 Cup story.
It feels... really departed a lot.
Yeah.
Just saying. That's probably why I liked it so much, is because it was a very fresh voice. When I first read it, I was like, okay, that's dark. But the more I thought about it, the more it grew on me. So there you go.
Absolutely. I actually liked the Monstructor stuff because I've only ever seen Monstructor as Monstructor. Like, I've never really, I never got the origin for that character. So I kind of like seeing that stuff here.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool part. Whether it should have been tied into Optimus' story, I don't know. But since it's part of Omega's, I figure, why not, right?
Yeah. It all flows. It's fine. I think it's just because I don't have the personal connection to Monstructor, and so it felt... That was the part where I was like, oh, okay, Simon, this is you being like, and here I have to put my chess pieces out on the board.
Well, at least he didn't put Grimlock out on the board.
I like the fact that they brought... I mean, because you can't have an Optimus Prime story without having a little bit of, kicking ass. So, he had to have a smackdown thereafter.
I love where Monstructor's just picking him up and crushing him. And he's like, I'm still trying to help you. Oh, well, I tried. And he does the punch him right here and they'll fall apart thing.
Yeah, that was awesome. I liked that. That was cool.
But then he says, one way or another, you will be helped. And then I'm like, that sounds ominous, dude.
That's what John ran with. Right
yeah.
Right
yeah. And I still haven't quite forgiven him for it.
Yeah. But it makes sense for what they put in here.
Yeah.
I can see how he could interpret it that direction. So
yeah. This is an incredibly pivotal issue. I'm just thinking of everything that springs from this. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. My captain, he did a good job.
Yep.
Squeezing this one good way.
Couple 100,000 words of fan fiction I care about a lot.
The first time I read this issue, I did not get it. I was like what you guys were saying about Cup, because I read it before I read the whole Brosnia thing, and so it completely threw me. I was like, I didn't know where to put this at all, and I think that's why I went and decided to get that story and to read it, so that once I did, and then I came back and read this, and it made much better sense because I was concerned at the fact at the very beginning of this, quite literally, he's sitting in a chair and he's getting reports from several different people. And Prowl is also giving him a report about some really important things too. Not only just the stuff that's going on, but he's also telling him, hey, the humans are showing no ill effects from the gas that rendered them, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah.
But I was like, all of that didn't make sense. It was bothering me because for me, Optimus Prime would have paid attention to all of these little details that are coming at him. And yet he's not. And the reason why is because he's incredibly distracted by the fact that of his own emotional fallout from, almost dying. Yeah. So that made this put it in context. And so I like this issue much better now because you have to read the other stuff first before you read this, or else you're like, what?
Yeah.
And see, I don't know what IDW was doing back then. I mean, I know about the Asian series and all that. I'm saying internally, yeah. I don't know what the meetings were like that said, hey, because the spotlights so far to me are on in your left hand, hey, let's do character one-shot things, spotlighting certain characters, and we'll pick and choose from whatever we do. On the right-hand side, let's make all of these tie in somehow. Now, I know later, as you said earlier, Aimee, John and whomever else wanted to be able to tie it in to make it feel like it's also all part of the one continuity that they have.
Yeah.
But I wish they would have just been character
I want to say that I remember hearing, and this might be completely off my rocker here, I want to say that I might have remembered hearing Chris McFeely say something about this, like the story, the actual story that was being told, like the one-shots were kind of like to kind of be the overflow of, like, Simon, I guess, does this at times where he's got the main story, but he's got all these offshoot little ideas that he wants to, and that's where the spotlights came in. But he didn't have them all filled in, obviously, because other people came in and did some of the spotlights, like Nick and, a few of the others that have done the spotlights. But in some instances, like, there were pieces of the story that didn't get finished, and so the spotlights later also ended up, kind of being like stuff that Simon wanted to tell, and additionally. So I think there was, and some of those things he didn't always put all of his cards on the table. He's kind of building things up, and then just keeps on doing issue after issue. We had Simon Furman on this until I want to say Maximum Dinobots.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he left IDW, at least in that capacity for the time, and Shane McCarthy did All Hail Megatron. So I want to say that I think it was more like it's just what was negotiated. What ended up happening is the spotlights. Yeah. I think they were also there to kind of try and pull people in that maybe hadn't read the main line. So like, hey, if you could take an issue here, an issue there, and start getting interested in Transformers, then, there's that as well. So, because Simon was writing, he's written a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Until James and John, it was
Simon
him.
Simon was the guy. Yeah,
Simon was the guy. He's written all of the Marvel stuff. He wrote a lot of the Dreamwave stuff. Mm-hmm. And then to have him back again in IDW, especially, I mean, this is the beginning of IDW 1.0, so why not get something that, hey, everybody's read Simon, or they could have, and maybe that's a pull to get people to come and say, hey, we have somebody experienced that knows what they're doing with Transformers, and this is a new tale from him. And so, it's kind of good to have that. For they had just gotten the license, so they got Simon. Why not? The first person I think to too. I want it to be successful. I know he's made it successful because he's done all of the Marvel stuff. So, and exactly. He also did Dreamwave as well. And no matter what anybody says about Dreamwave, the stuff that was written that actually got published, that Simon put some real good stuff out. I liked some of it. So
I did too.
Half style aside, it was pretty good story. So him jumping on and starting with the Asian stuff because, Infiltration was, I think, the first one. So there you go. Yep.
Absolutely.
This kind of stemmed out of that, so it's all good.
All right, Optimus Prime 0 to 5. Heather, what are you going to give it?
This is hard because I can't be like, this is deathless literature, but it's really good and really beautiful and really foundational.
If you've never experienced this, unless you've looked at it in 3D.
Oh yeah, I do have it in 3D and it's awesome.
Okay, good. Because I did eventually get glasses and I did have an actual one that was 3D.
Very cool.
It is pretty fun.
I own a lot of copies of this because people know me and give me presents and I love them. I don't care. I'm giving it a 5. Especially for compared to the other stuff that was coming out at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is some of the best from that era.
Yeah. I'll give it a 4. What about you, Amy?
I'm going to give it a 4 as well because there's a lot that I like about it. But I think I like more of it now because I've read more after it as well. So I'm like and nothing really happens. He goes and talks to, Omega Supreme, and he kind of confirms that they just didn't get along and they had a difference of opinion. But the real depth of what he actually is saying doesn't really hit you until later. So I think this is the beginning
it
where
hit me at the time. Slag you, Amy. I see with love.
It hit me more as I got to see really what it was because I like actually, seeing what it is that he did that was bad rather than just being told. Actually, he did a few things that I didn't like. I was like, okay, Omega Supreme, I'm all right with that. I respect that. But it did boggle his brain. You're right. So I'm going to go with a 4. The art is really gorgeous. I really like Don Figueroa's in this. I wish he'd stuck with this when he when he came back as on Casa's era ongoing. That would have been so much better.
Just tell Hasbro to go away when they say make things movieverse.
I thought that it was more of a Don's choice to do it like that.
I don't know. I've heard both. I've heard both things, and the rumor mill of the internet.
Yeah, that's true. But
yeah. Can I just take a moment to say the number of times people redrew the part where I get my spark ripped out? There's at least like 3 times that people revisited that, and it was like, yeah. That was the one that I was reading, and I can tell you exactly where I was sitting on the couch, and how I went, ow, 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 and my husband was like, what are you reading?
Calm down, it's just a comic.
It's not just a comic, Mike, it's an experience.
It is an experience, I agree. Because the first time I read that as well, I had to stop the comic and put it down and go, I don't know if I want to keep reading if they're going to kill Optimus Prime. Because it looks like he's dead.
So
he's
bad.
Dead. And then and then afterwards I was like, yes, he's not dead.
Yes. Like, see, I am smart. And also play basketball, Mike. You can be smart and play basketball.
Not while Megatron is destroying the... Never mind. Yes, so...
You're being very...
I remember I was reading this and everything, and I had a table right in front of me. I almost knocked the table over. That's how excited I was.
Wow.
Like, yes, awesome. He's not going to die! My kids are looking at me like, what is Mom going? What is she smoking?
Oh, to clarify, we're talking about escalation now, not this issue. Some people are probably going, what?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
All right, that's going to do it for now. I will be back with Ryan for Ramjet? Why does Ramjet get a spotlight? I don't understand.
Oh, poor Ramjet.
There's some person that loves that spotlight. I can't remember who right now. One of the other podcasters, they're just like, Ramjet is the best spotlight. I'm like, you can have it.
Where can the people find you online, Heather?
I'm Ha-Hee Prime everywhere on Twitter and everywhere.
Awesome. Aimee, remind the people.
Find me on Twitter at LadyWreck.
We'll be back after this, folks.
Because if Megatron thought you were cheating him, you could be in big trouble.
The final spotlight in Volume 2 from IDW Publishing focuses on Ramjet. Why?
Actual worst leader ever was Grimlock, Generation 1 Marvel Comics. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. I think, and we said this in the first time we tried to do this, you said this, and again, I'm stealing your lines here, because apparently my brain is actually working when I can steal Ryan's lines. This is a true form of what the Spotlight should have been. A one-shot story spotlighting the character that has nothing to do with anything else that's going on in the rest of the IDW universe at the time.
Yeah, Ramjet thinks he should be leader. He's got big plans. We see him prepping everything. Mm-hmm. He wants to usurp Megatron, and it goes about as well as you'd think. Megs finds out, and, it's not real friendly about sharing power, that sort of thing.
No, he never has been. If anyone has learned anything from Starscream, don't try to overthrow Megatron. And technically, this is Ramjet's own fault. Like, the reason why he ended up being, basically decimated and destroyed by Megatron is because in the beginning of this, he blabs to Skywarp his entire plan. Yeah. And obviously, Skywarp ain't no dummy. He's loyal to Megatron,
Also, he's not looking to get killed, so.
True. I don't necessarily want to say that Skywarp is like the sweeps in the movie when, I belong to nobody. Well, we work for him. The whole thing with Unicron in the movie. But, Ramjet, Skywarp, the Seekers, all that stuff. This is the comic that has the stupid human...
facsimiles, yes.
Facsimile, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so Skywarp, wow. No, Ramjet has to do all of this with substandard parts. Mm-hmm. So he builds his little mini Constructicons who are not real swift, and he has his own facsimile who is also a few bricks short of a load.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite line from Ramjet out of this entire thing: "It was a mistake to equip you with satellite radio receivers. You've been tainted by this planet's foul culture." The mini Constructicons are basically really, really bad rap station DJs.
If that, yeah. And that's, they're pretty low on the totem pole here.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And, yeah, Ramjet is, now, his plan is to make the Decepticons more autonomous, not have to depend on humans or other things for power. However, he never really comes up with a plan to get rid of Megatron, which might have been a good idea at some point, mm-hmm. since, he's really big and strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like, he has zero plan to get rid of Megatron.
And I like that you mentioned this at the start, that mm-hmm. this is a one-shot, that sort of thing. I like that it eventually does tie in, because the humans make Cybertronian technology based off of Ramjet's corpse. We eventually see one of the mini Constructicons in Optimus Prime. Actually, no, sorry, that was before it was rebranded. It was in the Transformers.
Robots in Disguise, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a standalone, but it eventually has implications. But in any case, I just really like this because we got to see sort of the viewpoint of one of the grunts. And we don't often get that. I mentioned, the first time around that it would be neat to see the viewpoint of some Autobot who, as Ryan realizes he has other windows open. Anyway, Don't podcast while sick. I'm not good enough to podcast when I'm not sick. And anyway,
Stop
so, but yeah, it'd be nice to see the viewpoint of one of the Autobot grunts, for example, who maybe he's never even seen Optimus Prime. You know, maybe he doesn't agree with the decisions. Maybe he does agree with the decisions. There's a lot of options there.
You know who really deserved a spotlight, and I don't even think he's in the IDW universe. If he is, he's only in there, like in a cameo role. Gears.
Yeah, Gears doesn't get much. Huffer is on the Lost Light and doesn't get a lot. He might have been interesting. There's a few different options here. At least Wheeljack got some individual issues that focused on him because he was done well, and his friendship with Starscream and some of the other characters that you don't necessarily expect him to interact with made it really interesting.
I'm surprised going back through Ramjet here and looking through the art. I was surprised at the scene where Megatron says, "When we are done here, the world will be forever changed." In that scene, I just now noticed that's Blitzwing.
Yeah.
Next to Skywarp. That's cool. I wish I had noticed that the first time, but so yeah, I mean, this was interesting. As you said, the only real implication is that Ramjet's corpse basically is fodder for the humans to reverse engineer the parts and all that stuff. I'm loving the spotlights. I think they're super cool. I do wish that they were completely autonomous, but I understand why they're not. Why some of them are not.
I liked this. This was Stuart Moore's only. I don't know what to call New Avengers Transformers because he wrote that as well, but this is the only Transformers only kind of appearance that he wrote in IDW.
Right. Yeah, Ramjet, I'll give it probably a 3.5 out of 5.
Really? Okay. I give it a 4. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I would have liked to... So this is an example of why with IDW relaunching, as we record this, 3 issues in, they should really consider doing the spotlights in the new universe.
Yeah.
Another reason to do it would be to kind of show readers who read the original IDW stuff the differences in some of the characters if they want. It's an opportunity for a lot of do-overs, but yeah, I was sad they did not continue the spotlights. They really should have. This is the last issue in the volumes of spotlights. Now we get more of them later on as part of the run-up to Dark Cybertron.
Yep. Well, no, we have more before the Dark Cybertron stuff.
Yes, but not in volumes.
True.
So this is the last volume of Spotlights. The next one is the Dark Cybertron sort of prelude to Dark Cybertron, which contains a number of spotlights as well.
Yeah, it contains the tail end ones, and sadly, the only time that the other ones after this is like Blaster and RC and Grimlock. Those were collected, but
those are collected, in Volume 3. Whoops, this is Volume 2. Yeah, well,
yeah, this is Volume 2. Yeah.
Sorry, it's okay. I'm confused because, we talked about this. That's right.
Yeah.
We talked about this in reverse order last time around, that, Volume 3, for some reason, is not available on Comixology. You can buy the individual issues.
Yep.
And I have the Volume 3 trade paperback, which physically you can purchase.
But it's not available collected.
Digitally. Yeah.
It's weird. I tried asking Comixology about it. I tweeted that I mentioned them and IDW. Nobody ever replied to me. So it is what it is. I mean, that universe has ended. They have a new universe now. Yada yada yada. Our good buddy Jesse over at Bots and Panels over at Iacon Media. All he says is that they just walk around in the new series. There's more talking than actual stuff happening. I don't know. I've only read, like, the first issue of the new universe.
I have no comment yet.
Yeah, exactly. Where can the people find you?
I'm trying to keep an open mind.
Where can the people find you online, sir?
I am at Nightbeat on Twitter, where I will cough less.
As we've said in the other parts of this episode, you can also follow at LadyWreck on Twitter and at Ha-Hee Prime on Twitter as well for Aimee and Heather. I'm at TFG and Mike. Follow the Pullbag at the Pullbag on Twitter, at Geekcast Radio for all the other network updates. Make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time here inside the Pullbag as Autobotly April 2019 rolls on.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pullbag, the GCRN's first comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate and leave a review for the show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Become a fan of us on Facebook, facebook.com/thepullbag. Send us an email, feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at thepullbag and at geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.